Over 5,000 years ago, West African farmers domesticated a crop that fixes its own nitrogen, survives drought, and reseeds itself. Enslaved Africans carried it across the Atlantic as one of their only connections to home. It kept southern civilians alive when armies burned everything else. Today, 90 million acres grow soy instead. The black-eyed pea was not replaced because it failed. It was replaced because the system could not monetize it. In the ancient Sahel, long before the first pharaohs built their tombs, farmers coaxed a hardy bean from the dry earth. Archaeobotanical evidence traces the black-eyed pea's domestication to the lands surrounding Lake Chad, in what is now Nigeria and Cameroon, nearly 6,000 years ago. This humble legume became a staple across West Africa, thriving in poor soils where other crops withered. By 2500 BCE, its reach extended north to Egypt and east to the Indian subcontinent, carried by traders and travelers along the world's earliest routes. Mediterranean societies, from Rome to Greece, adopted the cowpea for its resilience, though European elites often dismissed it as food for the poor. Centuries later, the Atlantic slave trade forced a new journey. Dried cowpeas, packed for their durability and nutrition, became standard rations on slave ships, alongside yams and rice. Oral traditions recall seeds sown into the hair of the enslaved, a silent act of preservation. The first written records in colonial America mentioned black-eyed peas in Virginia gardens in the mid-1600s, not as a commercial crop, but as a vital food grown by enslaved people for their own survival. These gardeners, unnamed in the archives, drew on knowledge passed through generations, planting the seeds that would root a West African legacy deep into the soils of the American South. Winter, 1864. The southern countryside lay stripped bare by war. Union columns marched across Georgia and the Carolinas, burning barns, torching fields, and seizing livestock in a campaign to starve the Confederacy into surrender. Wheat, corn, and rice vanished under the scorched earth strategy. Yet, in the margins, in fields thought fit only for animals and the enslaved, black-eyed peas endured, overlooked by soldiers unfamiliar with their value. Family stories passed down through generations recall the bitter meals of those months, little but peas boiled with stale bread or scraps of pork, eaten in candlelit silence as distant gunfire echoed. Adelaide Stewart Dimitri, writing years later, described the black-eyed pea as a tiresome staple, but one that filled empty bellies when nothing else remained. Folklore grew around these lean times. Some say General Lee called the humble field pea one of the Confederacy's best friends, though no letter or diary confirms it. What is certain is that, after the war, the black-eyed pea became a symbol of endurance. On New Year's Day, southern families gathered around bowls of hoppin' john, rice and peas simmered with pork, believing the meal would bring luck and prosperity in the year ahead. The ritual drew from West African and Sephardic Jewish traditions, but it was the memory of survival through hunger and loss that gave it new meaning. Each spoonful carried the weight of hardship and the quiet hope that better days would follow. Beneath the surface of every cowpea plant, a quiet partnership unfolds. Tiny nodules form along the roots, each one a living chamber for rhizobia, soil bacteria that convert nitrogen from the air into a form plants can use. This natural process, known as biological nitrogen fixation, spares farmers the need for synthetic fertilizer. In a typical season, a single acre of cowpeas can add between 50 and 150 kilograms of nitrogen to the soil, nourishing not just the crop itself, but whatever follows in rotation. The effect is cumulative. Over time, fields planted with cowpeas grow richer, not poorer. The resilience of the black-eyed pea extends far beyond its chemistry. Unlike shallow-rooted grains, cowpeas push taproots deep into the subsoil, drawing moisture long after other plants have wilted. During droughts that wither corn and soy, cowpeas persist, sometimes yielding half a ton of beans per acre on as little as 400 millimeters of rain. This trait is not a quirk of a single variety. Trials conducted at the University of California, Riverside, along with studies from West Africa and the American South, confirm these abilities across dozens of cowpea lines. Researchers have measured healthy nodulation, robust yields, and consistent nitrogen fixation even when fields are exposed to the stresses of modern farming, including compacted soils, herbicides, and long dry spells. The evidence is visible in the soil itself. After a season of cowpeas, organic matter rises, erosion slows, and the land recovers. Crops planted the next year, cotton, corn, or vegetables, grow taller and greener with little or no added fertilizer. In the language of science, the black-eyed pea is a regenerative crop, quietly restoring what others take away. For centuries, this service came at no extra cost, woven into the rhythms of small farms and survival gardens. The question is why such a plant, so generous and self-sustaining, would ever be cast aside. Across the heartland, soybeans now stretch from horizon to horizon, 90 million acres in the United States alone, according to the USDA. This is not the patchwork of small fields and rotating crops that once defined American farming, but a single species dominating the landscape, season after season. To sustain this scale, fields are drenched each year with synthetic nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Unlike the black-eyed pea, soybeans cannot fix enough nitrogen on their own. Instead, they rely on chemical fertilizers which seep into the soil and flow downstream. The consequences are vast and measurable. Each summer, nutrient runoff from Midwestern farms pours into the Mississippi River, fueling an explosion of algae at the river's mouth. When the algae die, they sink and decay, stripping oxygen from the water and suffocating marine life. The result is the Gulf of Mexico's dead zone, a hypoxic area larger than the state of Connecticut, where shrimp and fish cannot survive. Scientists have tracked this phenomenon for decades. In 2023, the dead zone measured over 5,000 square miles, with agriculture accounting for the majority of nutrient loading. This is the cost of monoculture at scale. Soil that grows dependent on chemicals, rivers that carry away the surplus, and a coastline that pays the price. The black-eyed pea once rebuilt fertility for free, leaving fields richer than before. Now the system demands more fertilizer, more water, more of everything but resilience. The choice to replace a regenerative crop with one that depletes and pollutes is not just an agricultural decision, but an environmental reckoning. Harvesting black-eyed peas on a large scale was never as simple as running a combine through a soybean field. Cowpea pods ripen in waves, not all at once. On a single plant, some pods are dry and ready to shatter, while others remain green and supple. Early combine harvesters, built for crops that matured uniformly, left as much as 40% of cowpea seed on the ground, lost to split pods, missed by rigid headers, or thrown aside by threshing reels set for soybeans. Agricultural engineers in the 1950s and the 1960s documented these losses and warned that no amount of adjustment could make a standard combine gentle enough for the crop. Instead, extension agents and policymakers began steering farmers towards soybeans, which could be harvested in a single pass with little waste. George Washington Carver's research at Tuskegee had already shown the value of cowpeas in rotation, restoring nitrogen and rebuilding exhausted soils. His bulletin circulated in USDA offices, but by the post-war era, the focus had shifted. Industrial agriculture wanted crops that fit machines, not the other way around. Carver's advocacy was quietly shelved, his crop consigned to the margins as soybeans took over the heartland. A seed that plants itself, returns every season, and feeds the soil as it grows. This is a business model's worst nightmare. Patent law rewards crops that can be owned, controlled, and resold year after year. Black-eyed peas break that cycle. Once sown, they reseed and persist, slipping past the boundaries of proprietary seed contracts. Industrial agriculture, built on patented hybrids and annual seed purchases, had little use for a crop that refused to play by those rules. The soybean, engineered for uniform harvest and genetic control, fit perfectly into a system where profit depends on intellectual property and repeat sales. What vanished in this exchange was not just a plant, but a way of farming that restored fertility without chemicals, nourished communities through lean times, and preserved the memory of survival and adaptation. The loss is measured in depleted soils, vanished flavors, and the fading stories of those who once depended on a bean that needed nothing but sun, rain, and time. Today we plant fields for profit, not resilience. Soy demands fertilizer and water, and black-eyed peas restored land for free. Mechanization favored what could be sold, not what communities needed. Each season we choose between memory and monoculture, and the soil itself bears the cost. What would we grow if survival, not sales, set the rules?